As someone who coaches men in masculinity, help us women finally understand, why does a man feel like he has to sleep with a lot of women to feel like a man? Ignore you when you talk? Why does a man fear commitment? Say he loves you and then still cheat on you? Sometimes it feels like men and us women are speaking two completely different emotional languages. And often the more we actually try to understand each other, the more further away we actually end up being. So today, Jason, I want you to be our translator. As someone who's done the deep work around masculinity and coaches men, help us women actually finally understand what men think but rarely say, with a game I'm calling Why Does a Man? Number one, why does a man fear commitment?
A man fears commitment to a woman because he fears who he really is will be exposed. I remember a friend of mine who desired to get married for years. He said that his woman could never see Bruce Wayne, she could only see Batman. And that's why men are afraid of, fear making that next step in life, because they feel that they can't be human. Like, we all realize that the Superman cape that we proudly wear actually is strangling us. And what happens when we take that cape off when we come home? Can we bleed in front of her and still be believed in? And so that's why men are like, look, I'm okay. I'd rather just, almost we embrace suffering in silence as a code of honor, but being emotionally incarcerated it's a mask. We all wear it. I think Lewis Howes called it the mask of masculinity.
Yeah.
Where we have to be perpetually strong. And it starts from childhood. We're told at an early age, big boys don't cry. And Dr. William Frey, he was the first to discover that tears not only contain 98% water, but also stress hormones when they get excreted from the body. So when you tell a kid not to cry, you basically tell him to cut off his humanity. And then you wonder why he cries in the wrong ways. He cries being addicted to porn, or cries being abusive verbally, even physically. He cries out when he may grab a gun and go shoot up a school because he was bullied or a girl didn't like him. And so when you cut off that side of a man's identity and that he is only a protector and provider, this is why I believe that men, we die by suicide 3 to 4 times as likely as women. We commit, I believe it's now over 90% of homicides in the United States alone. 9 out of 10 people to live to be over 100 are women. And we truly are living unhealthy lives because we're performance-based. And so if your entire existence is based on who you do, you only feel valued for who you are, we've just surrendered to society's definition of manhood.
For a woman, it does feel like either he's playing games or you make it about yourself. Like, okay, well, clearly he didn't want to settle with me. What's wrong with me? But in your explanation, and this is what I'm so excited to talk to you about, is that I really want to know the truth behind the struggles of men.
Right, yeah, but I also tell women as well to do not allow him that space in your heart. Like, women have to guard their hearts as well. You know, stop giving men what a husband deserves. Or even better, stop giving men with a child's mentality what a husband deserves. And so the biggest issue, I believe, is that men are getting access too soon. Like I tell my daughter, I tell the young women at our nonprofit, don't give him that access. He doesn't deserve it yet. Make him work for it. Until then, if he's just locked in provider and protector mode, that's all he does. He's just masculine. I was the same way. The gold standard in my community was the hyper-masculine black male. And so I chose that role. Why? Because all the girls in the community seemed to like this tough, gangster, thug type of guy. But one day I figured out later in life that the word thug, I made an acronym for it. It's a traumatized human unable to grieve. And so I immediately took away the glorification of this mentality and saw the root cause of why men were stuck in this fight or flight mode.
So I want to actually go to what you said about access, because that's one actually that I've got here. Okay, number 2, why does a man easily have sex with you but then find it hard to give you access to his phone?
Well, he's an immature man. You know, first and foremost, I go back to what type of man deserves to have sex with you. Like these things should be flushed out before he gets that type of access. And so when I say guard the heart, don't hoard it where you're not expressive or you're experiencing anymore, but guard it. Vet him out, just like a job, and test him and see if he's worthy of even coming in that space. If he feels that you're going to give it to him, he's going to take it. He's programmed that, unfortunately, that's what this is about. I protect and I perform. You give me this. This is the relationship.
Okay, so I got a few more. Why does a man say he loves you and then still cheat on you?
He doesn't love himself. As a young man growing up in my city, or it doesn't matter what city you're in, the culture, if you were a virgin, you were clowned. You were disrespected. You were talked about. In middle school, we were trying to have sex just to get this virgin label up off of us. So it starts with self-love. Do you love yourself enough where you won't just spread yourself around that thin? And so when you see a man who says he loves you, but he believes that he's been created to be a dog. He's been created not to be faithful. Being faithful, I was taught by my own dad that was weak. When I told him I wanted to get married, he said, why in the hell would I want to do that? This is from my dad. And I'm trying to break a generational curse because you couldn't stay married. And so culturally, it's not promoted for a man to be faithful to a woman. And so when you understand that, it's like, okay, well, wait a minute. If you don't really believe that it's good for a man to be faithful to one woman, why would I give you a piece of me? Why would I allow you in this space, something that's so valuable? Why would I give that to you? And that's why we have to raise our standards. And I love how you tell women to put up their boundaries and have high standards. I tell this to men as well. I tell them, keep your virginity. That's your power. Now we're creating a different type of relationship. It's not built off intimacy. It's built off what love is truly about. And that's sacrifice. Are you willing to lay down your life for each other? Are you willing to go above and beyond for each other's needs? And that's why men, they love you, but what is the definition? Do they really understand what love is? And you have to ask these questions before you surrender something that's so valuable.
Jason, that was so strong. Then actually, does this go into exactly what you're saying? Why does a man feel like he has to sleep with a lot of women to feel like a man?
Mm-hmm. It's promoted. I remember when I lost my virginity, I was with my cousin. We were driving to the store. He says, hey, I'm gonna stop by my girlfriend's house. I said, okay, cool. And I believe I was, 16 at the time or 15. We go in the house and she has a little sister who was very cute. So he goes in the room and he's having sex with her, and me and her little sister are talking. When they come out, we get ready to leave. I say bye. We get in the car. My cousin's driving. He says, hey, did you have sex with her? I'm like, no. He says, did you kiss her? I'm like, no, I just met her. He was like, you a virgin? I'm like, yeah, I haven't had sex before. So he didn't say anything in the car. When we pull up into his house where all my uncles were, my cousins and my mother, he yelled out, hey, Jason's a virgin. The entire house erupted in laughter. So when I looked around at my mother, she was laughing. So you know what that did to me? It made me angry, because here it is. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I thought this was the way. I didn't know I had to just have sex with a woman that I don't care about for me to be validated as a man. But that's the culture. That's like the initiation into manhood. As soon as I got back to Detroit, I called a friend who knew a girl who liked me, and I went over the house because I knew I could have sex with her real quick and I can get this stigma up off of me. I didn't even care about her. I had no emotions. I did it because this was what I was taught as a man. You're not a man if you're faithful to one woman, and you're not a man if you're a virgin. That's not masculinity. So that day I lost my masculinity, and on the ride home, my mindset shifted from loving women to hating them. Because in that moment, my innocence, my uniqueness was no longer valuable, not even in the eyes of my mom. And that's what many boys are dealing with. That's what many grown men are dealing with. You know, we were forced into this, what I call a monofaceted manhood, where you're stuck in first gear. All you can be is strong, provide, or be promiscuous, and this is your identity. But as we see, men are not living fulfilled lives. We're not at peace. We're not happy. We hide behind the suits, the cigars, the cars, the jewelry, the watches. Inside that home, there's a man depressed, on the edge, and possibly suicidal.
I got really emotional with that story you just told me about your virginity. And I'm trying to, in real time, process why it made me so emotional. And I think it's because, and I'm just processing in real time right now, as a woman, we've had the opposite. If you sleep with a guy, you're a slut. If you do that, it means you're no good. So even if you feel affectionate towards someone, you're so worried in the back of your head of how is this gonna be perceived? And what if I regret this? If I sleep with this guy who I really like right now, is in 5 years, is that gonna be used against me in some way? And I've always seen it from the female perspective of how difficult it is for women when it comes to sex. And dude, your story broke my heart, especially because your mum laughed. To your point of what that's teaching young men, no wonder we're in the scenario we are, where men feel like they have to just get rid of the title, get rid of that name because it's a stigma. Women feel like you have to desperately hold on to it, otherwise you're seen and it's a stigma. And so these communications between the two genders, when we come together and we then have sex, no wonder there's so much confusion around everything. All right, my homie, we'll be right back with Jason Wilson. But just for a quick moment, I want to ask if this episode or any other Women of Impact episode has made you feel seen, made you feel heard, brought strength to your life, then smash that subscribe button down there. You have no idea how much that becomes the damn calling card, like the Wonder Woman logo in the sky, that this is the place, this is the community to be a part of because we have each other's backs. So smash that subscribe button down there. Thanks for listening. Now, back to the episode with Jason. Thank you for being so honest and sharing that story.
Thank you for your transparency. It made me really reflect on the other side, the complete contrast in realities for both men and women. And you're absolutely right. Women would get you're condemned culturally. You know, I tell my daughter, I don't think a man is worthy of that until he is married to you. And that's just me. That's just my standard. Yeah. What comes through your womb, the life, if he's not committed, he's not locked in, he's not worthy. And so even as young men, I tell my son, guard it, son, practice self-control.
Agreed, and I think that comes with everything that you're talking about, is the knowledge and understanding, and then changing the narrative around it. Because the narrative around sex for men is the complete opposite than the narrative around sex for women. And if I'm going to be honest, I feel like a lot of men are just using them for sex. Right. And they say all the words, they say they like you, they take you out for dinner, they show the signs, and then you realize that they were just looking for sex.
But that's not enough. That's all I'm saying. That's not enough to give them that.
Yes.
To give yourself to them.
Yes.
They have much more work to do. Get on one knee, propose to me. Let's get married. Then you're showing yourself worthy. Men understand that. We're tested and tried, especially in martial arts. You're not moving up into a different belt ranking if you haven't been tested. You haven't proven yourself worthy to advance. And we're talking about intimacy, giving a man something that's sacred, divine, just because he took you out to dinner consistently. He's kind, he's well-spoken, he has a good job, he seems to be a good provider. That's not enough. He needs to commit. He needs to lock in, because culturally, men look at marriage with a frown. It's like, I'm going to lose here. It's not going to benefit me. You know, even the misleading mantras, happy wife, happy life. That's not an accurate mantra, because the majority of times, if men are making the wife happy, they're miserable. And now we're starting to see, wait a minute, oh, happy spouses, happy houses. That's what my wife says. We both say that. Yeah. And so he has to give more.
And this really all does tie together of the messaging that both genders have been told. Because to your point, happy wife, happy life. When I heard that, even when I was younger, Jason, I was like, that is the most horrific thing anyone can say. Because what about the poor man?
Yeah,
like, even
yeah.
before I was in a relationship, I was like, that doesn't feel right. But on the other side, women have the same thing. Ball and chain. A woman is a
Wow.
ball and chain. It means
Or
that
trophy wife.
Well,
Yeah,
two different things.
yeah.
A ball and chain is I'm a weight around your ankle that you have to drag. Think about when you walk, what do? You
Yeah,
drag the
yeah,
ball and
yeah,
chain.
I got you, yeah.
So think about what messaging that's saying to women. And then the
That's
trophy
good.
wife, to your point, is I'm just here to be pretty.
Yeah.
Well, no wonder women have problems aging because we start to judge ourselves that I'm like the trophy wife that has dust and has rusted a little. You know, it's like, that
Exactly,
makes
yeah.
you feel terrible.
Yeah.
But it's both sides. And
Yes.
so I love that you say that. You actually have a few more that I actually have written down because I think this is really important for us to talk through. Better half.
Yes.
I agree. I feel sorry for men because if a man came up to me and was referring to my husband and was like, where's your better half? I'd be like, bloody cheek.
Yeah.
So I do understand why that's detrimental to men.
I've always taken offense to that. All of that language really, it came out of the pimp world. The happy wife, happy life piece came from give her what she wants so that she can shut up and you'll have some peace. It was never a sincere gesture, never. And that's what, again, I teach men like, look, that's not peace, that's an illusion of it. So now when we gotta go back to heal, when a man truly starts practicing what I call self-maintenance, I don't say self-love anymore because we can't connect to that language.
Agreed.
You say maintenance, like, oh, that clicks, good cars, this equipment in here, you name it, we know what it means to maintain something. So when a man practices self-maintenance, he can help maintain his own wife and his home. But when he doesn't have that type of appreciation and self-value for himself, how can he show that to the ones in his own home?
So I love self-care.
Me too.
I've never liked self-love because I'm like, well, sometimes I just don't love myself. Like on days, there are certain days I really don't love myself, but I don't want to beat myself up over
Right.
the fact that I don't love myself. Like now
Right,
that's a
right.
freaking double whammy.
Right. It's temporal, hopefully.
Yeah.
But self-caring for a man is like care, man. It's like
Yeah,
the Care
I get-
Bears, you know, like, I'm straight, man. Just, you know, again, here's another misleading mantra. No pain, no gain. So your care counters something we've been trained to believe as a universal principle. So now here it is, we got symptoms that you may have prostate cancer, but because you've been programmed that the pain you're feeling is making you stronger, you push through, and by the time you go to the doctor to get checked out, it's terminal. That's the problem with embracing these mantras as universal truths. Like what doesn't kill you can only make you stronger, or everything in moderation. It takes less than an ounce of cyanide to kill you. So as men, we've built our life off of mantras instead of what's actually true in life. And so when a man feels pain, he thinks I'm okay, let me get something to drink, I'll shake it off. Like, no, my man, that's been bothering you now for over a month. Let's go to the doctor.
I think the same for women with the sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt, of how that has become so detrimental to us
Absolutely.
because emotional abuse and
That's good.
coercive control and
That's
things like
good.
that is like that, or there's no bruises. And so it was so hard to prove because it's just in quotes words. So I totally understand. This is why I love talking to you so much, because I'm always so in my own head about us women and the detriments to phrases that have actually set us back. So thank you for highlighting these, because I never would have thought.
Thank you too. I mean, because again, this is the beauty of being able to have a conversation without attacking each other, because now we can see the differences are really similarities. And there are studies that prove too, with negative talk, what it does to your mind as well. So it does do damage. And so you have to, again, the emotional stability piece, like, who do you believe you are? I remember one kid was being bullied and they was calling him short and fat. I said, how would you respond if I called you blue? He said, what do you mean? No, literally the color blue. If I said, man, you blue, man, He was like, it wouldn't affect me. Why wouldn't it affect you? He was like, because I'm not blue. I said, well, it's the same thing with them calling you short and fat. I say you're stocky, which gives you a great base. If we was to grapple or fight, you would take advantage of me. If you was a running back, you have a low center of gravity, you'd be hard to tackle. He was like, wow. Again, seeing who you really are and not believing everything that people are saying you are. That's crucial.
Yeah, so in this scenario then, because I don't think sometimes we can be aware of how our words land, is there anything that comes to mind where you think women say to men a lot that we maybe don't realize how badly that lands on a guy?
That's a really good question. We got into an argument in our basement. I think it was definitely about finances. And I can't recall exactly what I said, but I said something about, why don't you follow my lead or something? And she said something to the effect of, why don't you lead like a man? I lost it. It hurt me to the core, but all I knew how to express was anger. So this is the trap. When I mastered how to express the core of the words that she said to me in the emotional way, like in that instance, if I would have said, it stopped, like literally stopped in that moment and said, I guess my father was right about me. I guess I am a loser. I guess I can't get things right. I never had the blueprint. I'm just trying to be the best husband I can, but maybe you're right, I'll never be able to lead like a man. Now, instead of your hands being up like this, you're dropping because now I'm communicating with you. Now the woman in you, the mother, the nurturer, all these other powerful gifts that you have, they're coming forth now because now I'm speaking a heart language. Now you're not listening to respond, you're listening to listen. When a man can master that, as your eyes are welling up with tears, that's what's missing. I'm no less of a man now because I expressed that. I'm just sharing now the true emotion behind the anger. Instead of walking with the basement stairs, punching holes in the wall like I did, which alarmed our daughter, and she came crying at the steps saying, stop it, stop it, stop it. What if I would have expressed it like that at the bottom of the basement stairs? I've done it with Nicole in the recent years. She's done it. She embraces me because it's innately in her. Like, I'm not a bad man. Women make mistakes, men make mistakes. I've said things to Nicole like, I remember it was a nice day in Detroit and she didn't know how hot it was outside. She came outside with a big overcoat on. And I said, you're gonna look like a fool out here. And I was just joking, but when I said it, I'm like, fool? This is my wife. And so I pushed it off, but then I saw her face and I hurt her. And she said, I didn't appreciate that bothered me. And in that moment, there's no defense. This is my wife. She's not a crock pot, which has it's a benefit to having one. She's fine china. You understand? They're both valuable. I had to recognize my wrong in that moment. How I communicated wasn't in love. The word fool was offensive. Because I'm okay with being wrong now, I immediately had to reconcile that. Look at her and say, I'm sorry. I said, that hurt you, I'm sorry. And I don't say that was my intent without saying, I'm sorry about its impact. You understand? Because we often look at our intent as an excuse for our behavior. What was the impact of that intent? And so when I'm able to do that, the communication flows, and now we're able to reset much quicker.
And then the last one, which is the honey-do list.
Yeah, men just want peace. And first thing I tell men is that peace is not the absence of chaos, adversity, or trials or tests. It's being in the midst of those things and still remaining calm at heart. However, when we want peace, like the scenery or relaxing. When our wives come to ask us to do things and we're taking a nap, again, if your mindset is performance-based and your worth is only in what you do, you're going to get up, even though you're tired.
I heard you say that as your story, that your wife would come and you jump off the sofa.
And I thought I was the only one. I thought actually it was a black thing, like it was only black men that would jump up when their wives would come on when they're taking a nap, get up to prove that, no, I'm not resting, I can keep working. It's universal.
So as a woman, because I really want to make sure that I hear it and I let it land on me so that I can show up differently. So how can we support men in that scenario? Because that sounds horrific. Like you're trying to take a nap because you're exhausted and yet you've got the anxiety of, oh my God, if my wife walks in, she's going to think I'm lazy or that I'm not showing up as the leader. That's hard, that's bad, that's horrible. So as a woman, what could I actually do like to support my husband?
What my wife does is she'll rub my scalp. So while I'm laying down, she'll come on the side of me and caress my scalp or rub my neck. That gives me permission to be human, to rest. That's what liberated me from that. Because we're getting up, we're working hard really for our wives. We're trying to make sure not only that our home is secure, but your life is stable, that we're doing the best that we can. We're programmed, we're wired that way. But rest is not weakness, it's a restoration of strength. And so, yeah, definitely, I would say using that power, your nurturing, your gift of nurturing, just rubbing our scalps, making us like really stay in that moment. That's what helps us.
All right, I got a few
What
more.
else you got?
Let's go. All right. Why does a man ignore you when you talk?
It depends on where a man is in his life. I don't believe he's to the place where he could really express himself emotionally that could meet that moment. So we talked earlier about communication and also share in this book how I compared the man's emotions to the 8 box of crayons and women's emotions to the 64 box of crayons. So what happens when a woman grabs, say, the color violet out of the 64 and trying to meet this man in this moment, and all we have is purple? She pulls out lime, and now we gotta grab a green and yellow to try to meet that moment. When a man is not used to fully expressing the gamut of emotions that was given to him, when she's really talking to him about what she's dealing with, her struggles, life, he can't meet the moment because his emotions is locked into performance. If he's only a masculine male, meaning only strong, bold, aggressive, and a protector.
Are those the colors of a man?
No, well, I would say men's emotions, number one is anger. That's our surface emotion. That's the one we go to all the time. That's the easiest to express. But more so you have sadness, you have frustration, you have self-doubt, which is more so of a mindset, but I would say insecurity. And so those are typically our dominant ones. But when you're not used to processing how you feel and you've been programmed to suppress those emotions, when your spouse comes to you, your wife, it could be your sister or any other woman who's used to expressing those emotions, you can't meet the moment. You don't even have it in your wheelhouse to help her navigate through what she's feeling. Because your mindset is just solving things and just going head on, being direct and getting to a solution. Things aren't as black and white as we want it to be. And we have to sit and listen and then process that in real time and then regurgitate it back to our wives. And as a man, if you're not a comprehensive man and you're not used to processing, reflecting on what you feel, releasing anything that's negative before it becomes toxic, then resetting to your baseline, you can't help, you can't communicate. Because again, you got two different beings. One is used to processing, expressing, and experiencing. The other is monofaceted. He's locked into just one mode. And that's why there's such a great disconnect.
Whew, such a good answer. Such a good answer. It just appears they're just being rude and they're just being dismissive. And I think it was actually the Gottmans that did a study. And the number one thing that women want to feel is seen. The number one thing men want to feel is appreciated.
Wouldn't you say seen is appreciated?
The way that I interpret it in my marriage, being appreciated is my husband works very hard And his analogy is, I go to war every day and I come home with blood on my face. And as a woman, he wants to be greeted with appreciation that he's gone out and fought the war. Now, as a woman, that isn't my thing. My thing is when I feel sad, when I feel deep emotion, when I feel triggered, when I'm struggling, is he there to create space, hold me, and see me for the vulnerable person that I really am and not the stoic person I show up to be.
That's really good. As men, we're not taught to be emotional. To feel anything outside of masculine emotions is considered weakness or pusillanimous to men. And so when a woman is hurting and grieving or just dealing with a loss or insecurity or imposter syndrome, whatever it may be, childhood trauma, and a man has never dealt with his own, he doesn't know what it feels like, the process, doesn't know any of these things, he's just trying to wait for her to finish talking so he can say, okay, I'll pray for you, or let's go talk to someone about it. But he himself hasn't done the work, so he can't help her. And so, yes, I agree with you 100% that women desire for a man to tap in and be locked in on that level. But again, like your husband, his whole day has been centered around doing what? Performing, working, warring. So if he comes home with that mentality, and here it is, you may have experienced something that is breaking you in that moment, how can he meet the moment when he's still stuck in warrior mode? And that's one thing I had to learn as well. I can't keep giving the world my best and my family the less. And so that's the process. A lot of men don't know how to do that. So when you're hearing your wife talk, when I hear Nicole talks, I'm listening to the little girl inside of her, the times that she shared that she felt life was almost out of control. When I hear that, now my heart is tender. And then I'm locked in, and then now I know how to respond.
What did she do then in order to create space where you could become that man?
You know, I'm concerned about women in this regard, meaning I'm often asked that question, like, what can we do to create space for men? What can we do to help men heal? What can we do to help a man feel more confident in who he is? I don't want to be blunt, but I'm going to tell you the truth. It's nothing. A man sharpens a man. I believe that women need to start focusing more on themselves again. And the reason I say that because I'm starting to get concerned that women now are becoming stoics. And so when that happens, when empathy, compassion, the unwavering love of a woman is gone, and she has to now wear a facade like we do, it's over. And so I tell women, heal, work on yourself. How can you build something on a broken heart? It only can hold it for so long before it shatters again. But now when women have to conform to a culture, something that you fought against for decades to make sure that you can do the same thing that we could do, and now you're going to surrender that and fall in line with something that we've allowed society to box us in? Don't do it. I'm telling men the same way you had to fight. You didn't allow the mantra of a woman's place is in the kitchen to define who you are. You've rebelled against it. But we've allowed society to say, you work, no one cares how you feel, you protect, bring the check home and shut up. Here's your plate, eat, go to bed, get back up, do the same thing again. That's not living. And that's why I often tell men, you're not tired of living, you're tired of not living. As long as one side is working harder than the other to make this relationship work, it will never be a relationship.
God, that's so true. And there's so much there. I think it was like only the 50s where we weren't even allowed to own bank accounts.
Yeah,
like that's,
unless you were married,
yeah, that's
right?
crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy and excited of where women have come. I want to always make sure that we're doing it with our eyes wide open and we understand the dynamics that this is creating. So with me and my husband, I became a very strong woman in business because I went from a stay-at-home wife of 8 years who was there to nurture, and then I went into business. And when we were building Quest grew at 57,000%. And so that took me from shipping bars on my living room floor to within 2 years, we were shipping out $80 million worth of inventory. Our first production facility was in Compton, and we put out a call all on the streets that we didn't care if you have a criminal background. We said, what we care about is, are you willing to work hard, and do you care about the person you want to become? Now, I met some of the most incredible humans, but they were freaking hard and they were tough. So now imagine I'm 5'1", I've got a British accent, and I've got pretty much 40 men. They're like 6 foot and taller, tats on the, like teardrops, and I had to be strong. I couldn't be a pushover, it was my business. So I had to be strong around them, show up that I wasn't a pushover. Now, what did that end up doing to me? It made me very hard at home. The skill sets that I had to build in order to survive in business was now becoming detrimental to my relationship. Wow. And my husband pulled me aside and he said, I love that you have found yourself. I've seen you sparkle and glow like you've never done before. He's like, but we have a problem. And he says, I love you and I understand why you have to get hard at work. You are running a department where you have to show up and you have to be strong. He's like, but you're bringing it home. And I married a sweet, soft, loving, nurturing wife. And I didn't judge him. I didn't take that as a judgment on myself. Like, what do you mean? I'm this tough woman now. And, you know, like, you're trying to strip it away from me. I just held space for him to be honest. And in that honesty, I heard what he said. And I went straight into strategy. I was like, cool, I know I have to be a badass at work. No one can push me around. I got to set boundaries. I can stand up for myself. How do I do that? And then when I'm at home, I want to be. I love being a soft, nurturing wife. How do I be both? How do I create space where I can do both? And I came up with tools and tactics in order to do that. And that is where I am today, where I can now pivot. I can ebb and flow from one to the other, where you can see me talking to the team about business and the studio and cameras, and I'll walk off and be like, hey, baby, and give them a kiss. But that took time, that took patience. Yes, I didn't have my guard up, but I allowed him space to say the hard freaking truth. Now going back to what you said and tying this together. As a woman, we do want to show up for our men. We do want to be there and support them, just not in detriment to our self-esteem and our own worth.
There you go. I love how you said you learned how to be the strong leader at work, but then to be tender at home. We have a concept called the lion and the lamb, and we teach it in fighting, but also in manhood. You know, you have to be the lion to rise up when there's a threat, to fight, to protect, to work hard. But what happens? Do you stay in that mode? So when you study the lion, the male lion sleeps up to 20 hours a day. He becomes this dangerous animal whenever a predator enters the pride or he has to hunt. Now, in manhood, you don't want to stay in lion mode because that means you're stuck in fight or flight. I say raise the lion when it's time, but always reset back to the lamb. So again, if I'm working hard, like your husband says, he's in lion mode. He's doing everything that he needs to do to provide, to make sure he stays on top of business. But when you come home, you want to reset to the lamb. Me in lion mode made me a terrible husband, impatient father. I had to learn how to know when to let the lion out and when to retain him. An emotionally unstable man is the most dangerous person in the community. A man who stays there can't even be a great lover to his wife in the bedroom. You know, I have to learn how to be both.
I'd love to actually go through, if you don't mind. So you've mentioned many times the comprehensive man, and I love this so much because I'm going to be very honest. I've done so many episodes on the toxic man, on the signs that he's no good, the signs that you should run. They've either cheated, abandoned them, like it's not ended well. And so a lot of women fear a new relationship. And that's why I show up every day, is to make sure that if we decide that we want another relationship, how do we choose wisely? And I'm usually coming at from the negative, like be careful of all these red flags. Your book, The Comprehensive Man, is beautiful demonstration of green flags, of the type of guy that we should be looking for.
That's really good.
So before we start, can you explain quickly the difference between a masculine man and a comprehensive man?
What I love about the comprehensive man, he's anything and everything that the moment demands. He's compassionate, but he's courageous. He's strong, but sensitive. He lives from the good in his heart instead of the fear of how he'll be perceived. The masculine man is the complete opposite. Everything is built off the facade, his image, how he'll be perceived, how he'll be respected publicly. So he can't truly live from his heart because he's living more from his fears instead of authenticity. So that's the major difference between the two.
All right. Then let's start with the fighter. So what does a comprehensive fighter look like, and what does a masculine fighter look like?
A comprehensive fighter knows when to engage and when to walk away. He knows what's a threat and what's talk. He always keeps himself in an advantageous position regardless of what's going on. The masculine male is emotional, loses control very easily, doesn't look at his outcome before he makes the decision. That's the major difference between the two. And 9 times out of 10, the emotional fighter ends up losing the fight in the ring, in the cage, and in life.
So good. All right, so next we have the provider.
Let me start with the masculine male version of the provider. He will work until he dies. Everything will be to his own detriment. He won't take care of himself. He always puts himself last, even his health. The comprehensive man, he provides for others, the community, those that he loves, but he doesn't neglect himself. He practices self-maintenance as well. He understands finances. He values marriage because 2 together is better than 1 alone. I remember I saw an article in Forbes magazine about the benefit of marriage, and that was the one thing they pointed out. The cultures who value it more typically have more money than those that don't. And so the comprehensive man provides for others, but also doesn't forget that he too is a part of the family.
I love that. Did you know that married men live longer than single men? Married women don't live as long as single women.
Why is that?
Because a married
science?
man, you have the woman, I hate to be stereotypical, but they're nagging. Go to the doctor. Don't text and drive. You said you have an ache in your arm. You gotta go get it seen. So the man's like, fine, okay, I'll go get it seen. So he goes to the doctor because the women tell them to. But when he's single, he doesn't have that woman nagging him to go to the doctor. The woman, on the other hand, gives over to the man, gives over to the family, puts her self-care last. So she's always showing up to serve the husband, showing up to serve the children, and then she ends up serving herself last. But when she's single, there's no one else to serve except herself.
Wow. I didn't know that, but I definitely have to agree with that. It's, again, the reason we don't take care of ourselves because we view ourselves as workhorses instead of war horses. You know, when a workhorse can no longer do what he does, he's sent off to the pasture to die. A war horse is maintained throughout his life because you never know when war arrives. So that's what I consider myself, a war horse, someone who is ready for a battle, but until that battle comes, I am maintained.
I don't want to derail this interview, but like it's really hitting me. I do so much to help women, and yet men are struggling. And like I said, I've done a lot of episodes on like toxic men, but kind, genuine men that have just been led to believe a certain way. It's exactly how us women feel. And, you know, so thank you. I just really appreciate you being here and being so transparent.
Thanks for the opportunity. Yeah.
Of course. Okay, and now let's go to the leader.
Let's start with just the masculine male. Let's deal with him, a man who leads by force and not fairness. I often say when a man is able to process what he's been through, he won't ruin what he's going through. So when a man is not comprehensive and he only allows himself to live within the realm of masculine attributes, there's no empathy, there is no compassion, there is no concern, because we've been hoodwinked into believing that masculinity is a comprehensive definition of a man. It's not. It's just an adjective. Attributes like strength, boldness, and aggression. My mother had to embody those as well, raising me as a single mother. So the key is humanity. Can we embrace that? So the comprehensive man who is a leader understands that it's bigger than him. I never want anyone to follow me out of intimidation. The kids I work with in the Cave of Adullam, I often tell them, I don't want you to respect me because you fear me. I want you to respect me because you love me. That's how a comprehensive man leads. He will not be pushed over, but he doesn't need to push people over to lead. In contrast, the other type of man, he, as I said before, is by force, it's by dominance. It's also fear-based because he doesn't want to be perceived as being weak. But a man who's comprehensive understands that how a person views him doesn't define really who he is as a man. And that's the key differences between the comprehensive man being a leader and a man who's only masculine.
Well, question for you then. Do you think that it works if the woman is the leader of the family and not the man?
What do you mean by that? Unpack that a little more.
So me and my husband, in our dynamic, there can only be one driver. And I love
What do you mean? What do you mean one driver?
So what I mean is when you get in a car, you can't both drive. So
Okay,
you've got to need
for
one
sure.
person to lead. I used to think that if you had to be one or the other, you either had to have someone that was really strong, and that meant that you have to stay quiet and you have to just like follow the leader without saying anything, but you can't be both. As a woman, you can't follow a man and still be strong. And I realized in my relationship that's utter bullshit.
Yes.
That I absolutely can be independent, a strong woman. I know who I am. I know my wants. I know my needs. I know what boundaries. I know my morals and my values. I know all of that. And yet, with pride and strength, I can say, I love my husband leading the family. That is a message I didn't receive when I was younger. The message was, you have the masculine leader, like you described, that is brute force, that is all powerful, and you, as a subservient, should be following them. That's how I thought. But now I think of it as very differently. So my question is, in my dynamic, my husband still leads the family. Do you think it could work if a woman was to lead the family?
See, it depends on what you call leading the family, okay? So most men would feel very insecure about a woman making more money than him in the home. For me, it didn't matter. To Nicole, it didn't matter. I still was the leader of the home. So in that essence, what is leader? What is your definition? And that's why I have to ask that question, because Nicole trusts me with the final decision in our home. Is her viewpoint and her ideas and her desires dismissed? Never. See, I don't look at women as subservient. I look at their superior qualities. And as a man of faith as well, I know that it's written that God is my head and I'm the head of my wife. And so in that essence, I have to say that the man is always the leader. Now, the key thing is, how is he leading? And that's the thing we have to consider when we ask, is it okay for the husband to always be the leader, or can a wife lead the home? I think it's chauvinistic if a man says my wife can't lead in certain moments. Like, my wife is also a registered nurse. If we were in a health crisis or something had happened where our children were sick, I stand back. My wife jumps to the leader position. Now, something else happened with the protection, someone's kicking the door in, who do you think they're calling?
You.
Yeah. But then also you have to be careful as a man. Is this ego driven? What do you feel when you say, I am the leader? Are you beating on your chest, or in your heart you're saying, I'm the leader because of how I take care of those in my home? It's completely different.
Oh, I love that. Okay, we've got the lover.
So the masculine male views, when you bring up the term the lover, it's all about sex. The comprehensive man sees that love is much bigger than that. It's deeper than becoming intimate with a woman, but actually that love should express a sacrifice to the point of that he's willing to lay his life down for her, his family, and his friends, his community. What does a lover look like even to his own self? Does he love who we see in the mirror? Which is why I have a mirror exercise in this book as well. Like, we're so used to looking and grooming ourselves in the mirror, brushing our teeth, combing our hair, putting the suit and the tie on. But when have we actually looked at ourselves and said, man, do I really love who I see? Have I forgiven him for the mistakes that he's made? Can I really let go of these regrets? Did I really forgive my father for all the years of the verbal abuse? Can I forgive my mother for the neglect and not giving me the affirmation that I need? So the lover is more than just loving someone outside of yourself, but looking inside the mirror and making sure that you can love who you see.
That's beautiful. Okay, and we have the nurturer.
The comprehensive man views nurturing as coaching. The masculine male views nurturing as something that's exclusive to women only. Therefore, when his mother falls ill, he can't wash her face, he can't bathe her, he can't comb her hair, he can't file her nails. He can't tap into the other powerful attributes of who he is as a man, because all he is used to being is just masculine. He'll protect mom, He'll provide for mom, but he can't really care for mom. That was me prior to becoming a comprehensive man. The Most High used the situation with my mother having dementia to shape me into this well-rounded man. I could protect her from bill collectors. I could protect her from doctors who just wanted to push psych meds on her just to get her out the office. I could provide for her because her Social Security and pension couldn't meet everything that was needed to make sure she was in a great living location. But when my mother would have episodes where she would ask me questions, maybe 20 in a row, and I had to stay calm and loving and say, Mom, yes, we can go to the store 21 times, 22 times. The masculine male Jason would get frustrated. Mom, I already answered that. You're forgetting. You don't really understand, and I get it, but I already answered that. You don't have to ask me that anymore. I got you, Mom. I'm going to go to the store. That's not love. That's not patience. That's not kind. So when I evolved beyond just being strong and a provider and a protector, I became tender. I gained access to a part of my heart that made me even more powerful. That's the power of a man's nurturing love. It's different from a woman. It's securing, it stabilizes the environment, the mindset. I would massage my mother's scalp just to slow her thoughts down so that she can rest and go to sleep. That's the difference.
One of my favorite things is when my husband lays his head on my lap.
Wow, you created a great space for him.
Oh, I've never really thought about it like that.
Every man desires it, especially in my community. You'll see the Egyptian kings in Africa, and they would lay on the queen's lap. Every man wants that place. It's the ultimate sign that he trusts you.
So we should be encouraging men to do that, to show.
Not encouraging, because then it's going to be coerced. You encourage it by action, love, compassion. If he's there, if he's sitting next to you, see he's falling asleep, he's tired, just caress him, but don't force it. Then if his body collapses, he lays there and you give him that space, caress his head, let him know it's okay. That's the little boy in him. That's what boys would do with their moms. And so every grown man, especially if he lost his mother, it's no joke. Yeah, so if a wife can create that space, she'll have more than a husband who would die for her and provide for her. She'll have a man that really can tap into her heart. Yeah.
Wow, I never knew that. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we have the gentleman.
One of my favorites to talk about.
Yeah.
The masculine male views being the gentleman as pandering to women. The comprehensive man knows it's a code of honor, like the medieval knights. So it took me some time to study this, and when I found out that chivalry was this code of ancient warriors to ensure that the women were safe and well respected and treated, that the elderly were taken care of and children were safe, and that they were valued for what they desired. I said, well, wait a minute. Chivalry isn't dead. It just needs to be revived. It's on life support.
Yeah.
But we can revive it.
Yeah.
The comprehensive man can revive it. So the gentleman must exude that type of character, caring, respectful, not forceful. Like one thing I talk about is shaking a woman's hand. In business, we'll probably do here. And even in business settings, if you're here, I'm talking to you and I say, well, pleasure to meet you, and I go here. If you allow it, because I want to respect.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, because in most countries, this is how you shake a queen's hand. Never this way.
Yeah.
And it angers me when men forcefully squeeze a woman's hand. That lets me know that you're insecure.
Or even when they stick the finger out even more. Have you seen guys do that?
You do that, yes,
Yeah.
I've seen that.
That when guys
That's disrespectful. And so what I do is, again, even here in business, if you don't allow me, I don't move towards it. But if it's free, I come here, say it's a pleasure to meet you. See how it makes you feel?
It hits me very warmly.
Yes, because I'm acknowledging who you are to society.
Yeah.
and who you are in God's eyes as well. That's respect. It's being a gentleman. I would never shake a woman's hand like I shake a man's hand.
So look, when I think about chivalry, I think there's two sides to it. I think men are definitely losing it. They're not being taught it. And then I do think there are some women that don't appreciate it. Let's just put it like that.
That's true too, yeah.
And I would love to live in a world, though, that to your point, like, let's revive it. I was 21 years old. I'd already dated a guy for 4 years. I'd been on many dates with other guys. And I was 21 when I met my husband. And all expectations that I had of what a guy should be, what car he should drive, like, I was definitely materialistic when I was younger. And so I had this preconceived notion of what a guy that I should be dating has. And I walk up to his car and he's got this like really old man Buick. And his back seat is full of like complete junk. I'm used to being wined and dined with these great cars and like the speakers and the rims, and like that's the culture I grew up on.
Really?
That was like a signal of like wealth, like he's the guy that you should date. So that's what I'd had in my life. At 21, I go on a date with Tom, and I go up to his car. I'm like, oh God, this is a pile of crap. Like, what is it? It's not even clean. And then he opens the car door for me. It was the first time any man, my father, my brother, boyfriends, guys I dated, anyone, had ever opened the car door for me. And that was the moment that I was like, here I am judging his car, but I actually don't care because he just opened the door for me. It was one of those moments where I just felt like he was deliberately working to try and take care of me. And while going back to, I'm a strong woman, I can take care of myself, it was such a beautiful sign. So that's why when I read the gentleman part, I was like, I so was excited to talk to you about it, that I don't think there's enough gentlemen anymore in the world.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not modeled, so again, to their defense, who's really modeling it? Who on social media you can name that's a man that's really modeling what it looks like to be a gentleman? And that's, again, they don't be what they can't see, unfortunately. And so we typically have to be persuaded to really change a behavior or see the benefit behind it, which is human nature. But yeah, I love that story because I often say good guys don't finish last. They finish just in time for the woman who is patiently waiting for him to arrive.
Oh, I love that. Okay, the friend.
To me, the ultimate definition of a friend is someone who's willing to lay down his life for you. It reminds me of my Savior, who is Christ, who laid his life down for not only his friends, which he wrote about, but all of us. When I look at myself, I'm like, well, how many friends do I have that I would lay my life down for? And a lot of times we'll say, well, they're a good friend, but this is a bad friend. But really the word friend doesn't need an adjective, you see? And so my definition is that. Am I willing to lie down my life for this person that I call a friend? So then I started realizing I had more associates than friends. And so with friendship, to me, it's someone who's willing to do whatever it takes, will give the shirt off their back for someone else, laying it all down, never discarding how they feel. The masculine male looks at friendship of how that person can serve them, what they can do for them. To me, friendship is reciprocal, of course, but even if my friend is in a moment where he can't give, I'm still going to love him beyond what he can. I love the analogy of Winnie the Pooh, which I share in my book, of how Eeyore would be labeled toxic today, the donkey, right? Because every time he came around, oh, woe is me, just another day to live. It's just, and what if Piglet and Pooh Bear, and who was the other, Tigger, would have been like, hey, you're messing up my vibe, my energy. I'm trying to live my bad life. You're toxic. That's not friends. Eeyore's friends didn't treat him differently. They still asked him to come around. They still loved him because they accepted Eeyore for who he was, not his condition, how he felt. And so often we put up boundaries, which are good, but to what extent, or when do we question, has it been up long enough? I'd rather hit things head on. If it's gonna go down, let's get it over with. Let's talk about it. And I believe it's just making, especially men, fear confrontation. Put that boundary down and face that. Tell them exactly how you feel respectfully and say, we can't be friends if you're going to act this way. That's much more productive in my mind than putting up a wall and never seeing that person again.
And I think men also, correct me if I'm wrong, when they think of confrontation, it's usually confrontation with aggression versus confrontation, to your point, with grace and honesty and transparency.
We've been conditioned that way. Like, again, you know, someone slapped you, you punch them. Someone punched you, you shoot them. You see? And so when do you see it in movies? Like, think about it. When do you see two-star action actors reconcile over conflict?
Yeah.
You don't see it. You don't see it in hip hop, which is I grew up making music, DJing. You don't see it in the rock culture. It's switchblades, knives, attack, attack, attack. You've violated my space. You disrespected me. So if our young boys can't see men resolving conflict, what do you think they're going to do? Then you have the polar opposite of men who block everything that causes them to feel fear, to feel insecurity, instead of, you know what, I'm going to set up a meeting with this person because this will be the last time that they take credit from me in a meeting. Instead of saying, I'm never going to do a job with Dave ever again. Now, let's talk about the other extreme. You can have people that probably you do need to cut off, who are volatile, could actually put your life in vulnerable positions to the true, very definition of that word, vulnerable. Those are people you need to stay away from. It's written that bad company corrupts good morals. So I would never tell my boys to be around someone that could put them in positions where they could be incarcerated or even killed. And so again, you, as an adult, you need to navigate and know the scenario. But I always say, if I can face it, I want to face it because I know what it feels like to run from conflict. And I didn't like that space.
But that's because you've done the work, right?
I've done the work. I know how to express myself.
Yeah.
Anger is only there when I have to raise up the lion. Anger is a powerful emotion. It sparks some of the greatest movements in history against injustice. But it's also a fine line between that and danger as well, and abuse. You can see how anger can be taken the other way as well.
Didn't you say actually that one of the highest rates or professions that has abuse in their relationships is footballers, because that's why they become footballers? They're always just like hitting each other. It's aggression.
Yeah, they have a high stat in domestic violence.
Domestic violence, thank you.
I mean, think about it. You know, 'cause I work with some NFL teams. It's interesting, and the coaches don't mean any harm from this, but they say let your anger out where? On the field. So what are you doing on the field? You're hitting things. What happens when you're angry at home? You're hitting things, hitting people. I know I got mad at Nicole one day before I became emotionally stable and hit the refrigerator because I was offended by something she said instead of articulating the offense. So again, anger is a very powerful tool. It has to be channeled right for it to be a blessing more so than, I guess, a burden or abuse, even the worst. Yeah.
All right, we've got the husband now. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's one of mine too. The masculine male views husbandhood as lording over his wife, that his wife's role is to serve him rather than him serving her or them serving each other. The comprehensive man, however, gives his wife the respect and honor that he desires to receive as well. That's where I am now in, I guess, this time of being a husband, is treating her the way I want to be treated. And when Nicole makes a mistake, which I do and she still does, I bring it to her attention. Say, hey, Cole, this offended me. And like a lot of you do, you avoid that sometimes. Sorry is replaced with sex. And I want to hear the word sorry. Men want you to acknowledge what you've done, just like you do.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah,
same
yeah.
here.
So sex, ladies, isn't I'm sorry.
I would rather a sorry than flowers.
Yeah, what is flowers without the apology? It's
Exactly.
psych.
Yeah.
That's all it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
And so for a man, sex without the apology is psych, really.
Yeah.
Because you wonder why after you guys make love, he still has the attitude. Because his offense was never really acknowledged. And so that's why it's important that we both give and live how we would like to be treated. And that's the power. I could say, well, I want you to honor me. Do you think my wife doesn't deserve to have honor as well? I'm treating her how I want to be treated. When she falls short, it gives me a great opportunity to say, hey, when have I fallen short? Please, if I did it recently, call me on it, because today you hurt me when you did this. Let's reconcile and reset so we can get back to our baseline, instead of sweeping things under the rug. That's the benefit of being a comprehensive man in the role of the husband. It's much bigger than you. And it's amazing because whatever I say that she's not doing, if I really sit back and think about it, I'm not doing it. And this is when you talked about the leader piece again. Men get frustrated, like, why I always have to do this and set this standard and do this? Hey, you say you want to be the leader? You want to be the leader? I had to call myself on it. But typically when I see things like, man, why did she do that? And I really look at myself in the mirror, I did that. She's anxious. 'Cause remember yesterday I got anxious when I'm not modeling what it looks like to be stable in situations that are shaking her to the core. But when I start modeling it around Nicole, she shifts. That's that divine piece I'm talking about, being the leader, not something controlling, but something that's innately in a man. Like, another thing I found interesting is that if you're happy and a man comes home and he's in a bad mood, it shifts the entire mood of the house. That's the responsibility of being a leader, and greater when you're a husband, because now you have committed, you become one with the woman, and she's trusting you. You've become one. So what you desire for yourself is what you're desiring for her. It's also written that we are to love our wives as our own bodies. And I tell men who are in the faith, like, we're doing a terrible job at it because we don't love ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
You get it?
Yeah.
So we are loving our wives as our own bodies because we don't love ourselves.
Oh, that was a good one. All right, we have the father now.
The masculine male, Jason, as the father, lacked patience, looked at disorder in his home as disrespect. When the children didn't listen, they didn't value me, they didn't fear me, they didn't honor me. The father of the comprehensive man, Jason, seeks a safe space for his children to make mistakes, to grow where they're never condemned, but encouraged to grow and thrive. But when I go back to Jason, who was just masculine, only strong, the provider and protector, when my daughter Alexis was in her room and it was junky and so much disorder, I didn't realize that she was being verbally bullied at school where people were talking about her. I looked at it as just disrespect, and I missed so many valuable moments to be a caring father to her. The harshness, the same harshness that I received from my father, subconsciously had been programmed into me. And all our children should be seen as the apple of our eye. But Alexis, it crushed me because she felt like the worm in the fruit so many days. Even when I read the audiobook to this one, I got to that chapter, I broke down crying because I remember those days. And so now as a comprehensive man, I'm more understanding. I stopped parenting from my own wounds, then I became the father I longed for. That was the key for me. And that's the comprehensive man and the father characteristic.
Wow, and then you stopping that wound from then being inherited by your kids is like one of the biggest gifts I think a father can give their children. I actually just watched a movie, It Ends With Us, and the whole premise is about domestic abuse and how she saw her mum be beaten up by her father when she was younger, and how now she correlates that to why she's accepting this type of behavior from her husband. And then she gets pregnant and she has a daughter, and that's the final thing where she's like, I have to leave you because it has to end right here. It has to end with us. I cannot pass this generational trauma down to our daughter. And so hearing you say that, I think that is incredible. Like, I honestly want to just take a moment and applaud you, because the echo that has is endless.
When you think of, it ends with us or it ends with me, that's a very powerful statement. And that's what I wanted to stop. I wanted this anger, this unresolved anger, to be out of me. The trauma that started from my grandfather's lynching to my mother's first marriage, of her being abused and beaten by her husband and him slapping my brothers with the flat sides of butcher knives. And it goes on and on. And I said, this has to stop. I'm tired of living life on the eggshells of trauma. Like, if I crack this one, here's something else that's going to be traumatic. And that's when I encourage men, is like, when they ask me advice on what they should do with their children as far as making decisions, I always ask them, what could you live with? Could you live with her making it on her own in a bad neighborhood and something happening to her? Or could you live with you spending the $3,000 that you make in one speaking event and have some peace? Or on the other extreme, if your children are depressed, say your son or your daughter's depressed, and they're not talking to you, do you become the prideful parent and they shut off even more? Or do you humble yourself, do whatever it takes to break through that wall to save their life? Could you live with the humility of you being humble enough to do that, to throw this parent title off, like anything you say go, and cry out like, I love you, I'm here, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to help you get through the season? Or would you rather receive a phone call that they took their life? What could you live with?
You make me want to call my dad now. And now on the last one, we have the son.
The masculine male, Jason, was the one who was dependent upon mom, instead of the one who was supporting her. A lot of grown men are still in their parents' basements because they're stuck in perpetual adolescence. And that is because many of them have never received the camaraderie of men to help them have what we call rite of passage, to get them to denounce boyhood and become a man. The childish things that they used to do, they no longer do anymore. The comprehensive man, as the son, does whatever it takes to take care of his parents. Through hard times, through good times, his love is unwavering. The masculine male, Jason, can you give me this? I need this support. Because I was the only son, and then I lost my brother Larry when I was 3 years old. It was easy to manipulate my mother. I would threaten her, and I'm ashamed of this, actually. I would sell drugs if she wouldn't help me get money to get something, because I knew her greatest fear was losing another son. I had to pay for that. It's written that you reap what you sow. I remember DJing parties, and I wouldn't call when I was out, and I would come home at 2 a.m. My mother would be sitting up waiting on me. How insensitive, how mean-spirited or inconsiderate it was of me to not consider how much worrying I put on my mother that her son hasn't called her.
Why do you think you did it? Was there anger there?
Immaturity. This is what's interesting. I'm glad you asked that question. Youth that I work with who are sons of single mothers tend to resent their mother due to the absence of their father. Okay. And I have to always help them unpack that as well. Here it is, pretty much the only person that's supporting you. If she was to die, God forbid, who would you have? They could never answer. Then I take it to sports. I said, you know what it's like to be a single mom? It's like being the center in football who hikes the ball to the quarterback. Then you become the quarterback to drop back to throw the ball. Then you morph into the receiver who runs the route to catch the ball and scores a touchdown. That's just a snapshot of what it means to be your mother in a single home. I started resenting my mother because of the absence of my father, which was truly unfair. I didn't have a man like myself in my life to help me emotionally process what I'm feeling. And so as a result of that, I didn't really respect the heart of my mother, meaning what the pain that I was causing her. I was clueless. But when she developed dementia, oh, it came back on me because I wanted her to move in with us, but she needed 24-hour care and I didn't have the money for that. Thankfully, it was a beautiful home just 2 minutes away from us for a lady who cared for women with dementia. I get calls 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. Mom is volatile. Jay, can you come by? And I have to be at work. One day driving to her house, I'm angry. This isn't fair. I'm like, God, why is this happening? He says, oh, really? Well, how about that one time you hung out and came home in the morning and she was sitting on the front porch and you didn't say a word when you walked in the house? You reap what you sow, son. And at that moment, I embraced it. I said, I'm sorry, and I'm gonna love my mother through this. I close with that chapter in my book because that's what transformed me into a comprehensive man. I could no longer just stay in masculine mode. I had to become the nurturer. I had to become the gentleman. I had to become the very essence of a lover, a comprehensive lover. I had to become the leader. I couldn't lead by intimidation. I couldn't lead by force. I had to take my time to explain to Mom because I still wanted her to be a part of the process. So that's why I encourage every man, when we come in spaces that are unstable, like when children are scared and the father comes in and hugs them, see, everything's going to be okay. It settles the room. I tell men, run to those moments and watch how your heart transforms. Taking care of my mother, I couldn't run. I refused to abandon my mother. I said, you know what? I'm going to move through this fear. I'm going to move through this discomfort. And when I started taking care of her, I started seeing other children who weren't there. I used to judge them like, why don't your children come see you? But when I talked to them, the pain of watching their mother suffer or their dad suffer, they couldn't endure it. But wait a minute, we're masculine, we're strong, we're protectors, we're providers. No pain, no gain, right? Why can't you move through that? Because we've been lied to. When you tell a man there's something wrong with him crying, he can't be human. He'll never be able to meet that moment because you've programmed him to only be masculine. So now when a woman is crying, his wife is crying, that doesn't move him because when he cries, it didn't move anyone else. So why should he be moved? He doesn't understand what tears are about. Why doesn't he care? It's like he don't care about me. He was programmed from childhood to be that way. But when you allow him to feel, the freedom to feel, game over. Now he can live from the good in his heart. Now he can be expressive. He can be loving without fear of how he'll be perceived in the public. Mama cries, she's hurting. He can lock into every feeling, every emotion, every tear, and meet that moment with the strength that's needed in this world. And so that's what the son, and that's why I ended the book with that, because the role of the son shaped me into the man I am today. And now I can meet every moment without feeling like I'll be judged. Who cares? I tell men, don't worry if a woman impassively dismiss how you feel or don't fear it. Be thankful that you didn't marry her. And then move on. But don't put yourself back in the box. Refuse to go back into emotional incarceration. You know there's no peace there. There are mature women out here waiting to receive the comprehensive man. Don't allow the immature one to prohibit her blessing. So if she's just not to the place where she could receive your comprehensiveness, who you are now, say, it's okay, I understand. Hope the best for you and move on. But never go back into emotional incarceration. That's the key.
And that's what I was going to say is, as you were describing the man who's becoming comprehensive, that it's okay to cry, you have to unwire everything you've been taught, it's the conditioning. Well, women have also been conditioned.
Absolutely.
And thinking about, as a woman I'm speaking for myself now, who's been conditioned that a man is stoic, a man is strong, a man never wavers. When a man then cries in front of you, I don't know what to do. I remember the first time I saw my husband cry, I was like,
Exactly.
I didn't go into like hyper nurture mode. I didn't be like, oh my God, babe, yes, I can give you space to cry. I was paralyzed with not knowing what to do.
So that's what I tell men. It's like the same grace you need to unlearn what you've been deceived to believe. You got to give that to your wife, the women in your life. You've been hoodwinked as well. Everything is catered to giving you everything. Now when a man can't, he's not a man. If he shows any sign of weakness, he's not a man. If he's not checking every box, he's not a man. We both have to unlearn that. The same way you had to fight for your liberation as a human being is where we are in manhood. Men were created to not just be doers, but to be beings. We provide, we protect, but there's more to life than just that. When we allow that space to open, now we both can heal. But if we don't give our wives grace to grow with us, no one grows. I had to allow Nicole time to grow. When I first started expressing myself, it caught her off guard because I wasn't yelling anymore. The first time that happened, she got out the car, yelled at me that I'm the most emotional man she's ever met, and slammed the door and walked in the store. Because I was able to hold it together, express how I felt. She just wasn't used to it. She apologized later, but I made a decision in that car. My transformation is not for Nicole, not for my children, but for me first. As a byproduct, they will benefit. This is one of the greatest mistakes men make when it comes to their own evolution. We start making these changes for people, then when we don't feel appreciated, we digress back. We need to do it for ourselves, and that's where the self-maintenance piece come in. That's when you realize that I'm more than a protector and provider. I wasn't created to exist on this earth just to provide for you and our family. There's more to my life as well. When we fight for that in a good way, that's when things evolve in our home. But to your point, we have to give women the grace to unlearn what they've been programmed to believe a man is. Why do you think so many of them are misled? Because they see the signs. Okay, wait a minute, he has this, he does this, he does this. Same thing with your husband. If you would allow that old car to, as a sign, like, wait a minute, this isn't on the list of the man I need to be with, where would you be today? So again, just like men have been programmed, women have been too. Oh, he took a nap and he could have been cutting the grass. Oh, he took a nap and he didn't go shopping with you. Oh, so he prioritized. Been programmed. There's so much poison out here, both men and women, until we really say, you know what? This is garbage. This is a lie. I don't even feel this anyway. That's what it's going to take. That's what it took for me and Nicole. We had to surrender what we built in our marriage and say, this isn't it. God, tear this down. Let's start over. We went right to the bottom. Are you willing to do that? all of your mistakes, all of the misplaced guilt, everything, your failures, things that you did that you're ashamed of, are you willing to wipe that slate clean and start building on the principles that actually align with something besides what society tells us? That's why women are manipulated, because of what society has been teaching. Something's wrong with you. And that's when it comes to the point where, as a man, that's when the masculine attributes need to arise. That's when the lion need to awaken. I'm tired of settling for what society is telling me, what social media is telling me. I'm going to live from the good in my heart instead of my fears moving forward. Whoever takes advantage of me and my transparency, my openness, me being authentic, instead of me getting angry, I'm going to be thankful, because I don't have to waste time with you anymore. And that's what it's going to take, is you got to get past the noise, get past the lies, and stop allowing yourself to succumb to the pressure. Until then, we'll always go for the carrot on the string. Yeah. And when we get it, we're falling into a ditch again. Yeah.
Jason, your message, what you stand for, the way that you've transformed yourself is the beautiful compass to what can actually be done. So if people want to follow you, get your book, you've just started a podcast, where can people go to learn more?
Well, my handle across all social media is Mr. Jason O. Wilson, and my website is mrjasonwilson.com.
Amazing.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Guys, there is a world of incredible men out there. And yet we have had so much pain in our past that we are tense, we are nervous. I get it. You get scared, and so you back off so that you can protect your heart. But Jason is here to really echo, there are amazing men out there. There are men that can be comprehensive men. It is just a matter of who are you choosing, and when do you see the green flags in a comprehensive man, and do you go after that person? Guys, I really hope today's episode has taught you and myself the amount of beautiful things that a man can have. It's just a matter of finding that person that has those elements. So guys, don't give up on love. Just make sure that you protect your heart and you're picking the right person, the comprehensive man for you. Guys, go check him out if you're not already. Smash that subscribe button down there if you haven't already subscribed. And until next time, be the hero of your own life. Peace. If your heart keeps leading you to the wrong man, then you're gonna wanna watch this conversation right here with Jay Shetty.
We've been told to play small. We've been told to shrink. So you're going to accept behavior you never would. You're going to settle for language you never would.